I am Tim McDonald, your host of the Business of Speaking show. And today I'm Kimberly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It just cut in and out a smidge there.
Oh, okay. No, I was just asking you how you were doing. So the
I
silence
assume you're
was like,
saying
oh, I don't know.
nothing.
Maybe it's not good.
You froze for a second on me. Tim, I'm doing awesome. It's a beautiful sunny day here in North Vancouver, BC, and I am happy to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, tuning in and want to know a little bit of context of what the show is. It's a show for speakers, whether you're thinking about getting involved in speaking, just getting started speaking, or have been speaking a while. It's for anywhere you are on the path to becoming a speaker, that you can actually learn a speaker's journey like you're going through this all alone. So with that, I always like starting off, Kimberly, with actually get involved in speaking.
Well, that's a really great question because I didn't actually really decide to get involved in speaking. It just kind of happened over time by happenstance, if you will. I started out as a financial advisor. I was a financial advisor for over 13 years. So I would always be going out to live networking events before we were kind of trapped at home here. But so speaking was something you had to do. You, at all of these networking events, as you know, if you've ever gone to one, you need to get up and you need to give usually about a 60-second infomercial. So I mean, that was kind of the very, very starts of my speaking career, if you will. And it was, I stumbled at the beginning and I didn't always know what to say. But with practice over time, I got better and better. And then my speaking moved to offline. Or sorry, rather from offline to online. And then it got interesting because then I made some decisions that I wanted to improve my speaking skills. So I took on a challenge to start going live online once a week. I did a show called Talk Tuesday. So not unlike what we're doing today, I was getting online live on my Facebook channel. And I did that on purpose because if somebody's watching and thinks I don't get nervous when I'm about to speak, it still happens for me today. I still get the butterflies. There's still that little bit of nervousness when you're about to hit the go live button. And I chose to go live once a week to get myself out of that comfort zone and get more confident with my speaking in a place where I felt safe because it's my community and my friends and my family. And definitely that was one of the biggest game changers for me, was getting better at it by practice. And then, of course, I became a published author. So then the speaking engagements started coming even more fast and furious because people would ask me to come on shows to speak. So it really wasn't a planned event for me to be a speaker. However, what I found was it's a really great opportunity if you are in business to get in front of larger audience, to make a bigger impact, and to improve your business because you get to talk to larger audiences. And it's something that's been phenomenal. And I would highly recommend speaking to anyone who's looking to grow their business.
So with most of the speaking that you do today, is it, well, not just literally today, but like in the last year or two, is it really a lot, mostly online, or do you actually get out and get on stages and in front of, different groups of organizations or businesses?
Yes, so I do all of the above. So speaking is a multi-platform business at this point for me. I still do some local networking, of course, not in the last 3 months. We haven't gotten back to live local networking yet, but I am on plenty of online networking events. Now I've had the opportunity to go global. So for people that are looking to expand their audience even more, because I do most of my coaching online and on the Zoom platform, platform, I'm able now to actually cross borders and take my business globally because of speaking, which has been absolutely amazing. And prior to COVID-19, of course, I was doing stage speaking as well. So going to a lot of events in the marketing space, in the entrepreneur space, in the women in business space, and literally giving a talk from stage to be able to present myself as an expert in my niche. And so that's another form of speaking. And now I'm doing a lot of online interviews and podcasts and the like. So really it's a business that has lots of opportunity to get out there and position yourself as an expert in your business.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned you were in the financial services industry for quite a few years, and then how did that kind of evolve into what you do now? And can you go into a little bit more detail of what you do now?
Yeah, that was a game changer for me. So for over 13 years, like I mentioned, I was in the financial services sector. So I was one of usually a dozen or more financial advisors at those networking events. So kind of like realtors and mortgage brokers, financial advisors were a dime a dozen. So I was always looking for that edge and that unique selling proposition, if you will, or the how do you stand out above the crowd? And in 2015, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So that was a big TSN kind of game changing TSN turning point of the game in my life, where I realized I was kind of playing small. I was sitting on what I felt like was the sidelines of the game of life. And I knew that I had so much more in me. And I don't know if you've ever, it doesn't take cancer to do it, but sometimes have you ever sat down and thought to yourself, like, I always thought I'd be a little bit further ahead in my life than where I am right now. Well, cancer was that moment for me where I was like, oh my God, I've been playing small. Like I'm not where I wanted to be in business and in life. And so I vowed at that moment in time, I made a decision that if I made it through that I was going to make some big changes. So I embarked on a journey. I wrote my very first book. It was called The Financial Fitness Playbook, The Ultimate Guide to Winning the Money Game. So I spoke about that just a few minutes ago. The book actually opened so many doors to being able to get in front of free media and publicity. It opened doors for so many speaking opportunities. But what I realized through through that whole process was I loved the marketing and the growth and the personal development much more than I loved being in financial services. And there was probably a reason I wasn't actually doing so well in financial services, is that I wasn't following my passion and what I feel like I was put here on earth to do. And so I made a huge, big shift, because one thing I did learn through the cancer journey was that life is way too small or way too short to be doing things that you do not love doing. So I made a huge, big pivot and I shifted into marketing. And I created a program to help other entrepreneurs and service providers and coaches and consultants to write and publish a book that they could use as this game-changing marketing tool to grow their business, to be able to get more speaking opportunities, and to really make a difference in their own lives and in their business by becoming a published author. So
Yeah.
that was the big change for me about how I got into speaking and coaching.
So I'm kind of, it's interesting that you wrote a book, and it sounds like it was more relevant to what you did in the past.
Yes.
And so as it, as you've learned all these things that you were just describing about how it opened doors for you, is that when you saw the opportunity to make the pivot? It's so fascinating to me that you wrote a book like on something which kind of helped elevate you, and but then you decided to do the pivot after you got elevated into that bigger stage.
And yes, and lots of people say that to me. Well, if it was so great and it did such amazing things for you business, why did you change businesses? Well, because what happened was I was coming home from work even more and more and more miserable than I was before I had a lot of clients, because I was now actually attracting more stuff I didn't want into my life through the book. So the new book program was my way to do something that I love doing, which is the whole personal development, the mindset, the marketing growth. And so I did publish my second book. It's called Write and Grow Rich. And this is the book that I use to show entrepreneurs how to do exactly what I did, how to be able to, I personally doubled my income in less than 12 months using the strategy in the finance world. And I'm not saying that if you write a book, you're going to double your income. There's a lot more to it than just writing the book. It's how do you use it as the marketing tool? How do you go out and get these speaking engagements? They don't just you don't just write a book and it sits on your shelf and you get speaking engagements. There are some strategies that go out there with respect to getting the word out that you're now an expert in your space, that you want to speak, that you want to be able to provide value. And if you think about it, I mean, you're in the speaking world. We know that radio, TV, newspapers, which are kind of, going by the wayside, but there's still a lot of online news publications. There's magazines. They are constantly looking to fill their calendar with content, and they're looking for content from experts. And the best way to position yourself as an expert so you can get in front of those audiences is by becoming a published author. I mean, and speaking obviously does it too, but most speakers have a book, and vice versa. So I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but I know that speaking and being an author go very well. They go hand in hand together, and they're the dynamic duo of getting really great results in your business. So I'm a big purporter of it for sure, and I know you are too.
Oh yes. So I'm just kind of curious. I know your whole book is about the process and the program that you help other people with. But can you just maybe share like one of your personal stories of what you learned through how what you need to do to actually get out there and get people to find you?
That's I mean, that's to boil it all down into one thing. I think, the first step is that you need to make that decision. You need to decide that this is something that you want to do. You need to decide that it's something that's going to help you have a better life and have a better business. And the biggest thing is you need to decide to get out of your comfort zone. So the most people that I talk to, they're scared of speaking in public. I'm sure you hear this all the time too, Tim, but they say people fear public speaking more than they fear death. So I'm telling you right now, and this is just my perspective, so take it or leave it, but I'm telling you, I think amazing, miraculous things happen when you move past your comfort zone. So yes, you're going to get nervous. Yes, your armpits might get a little sweaty. Yes, you might have the butterflies. Yes, your voice might shake a little bit the first few times you do it, maybe even every time you do it for the first few minutes, but it does get easier and easier. You still will make mistakes. I'm sure I still use filler words like and like. I just use them less and less and less often now, the more times I get up on stage and I speak. And the best advice I can give is just get started. You're going to if you can't look back on your very first shot at a Facebook Live and go, oh, that was horrible, then, you waited too long. You just waited too long to get started. So just get started. The best thing you can do.
Well, that's wonderful advice, because I know nothing happens if we don't do something, right? So, as you look at all I mean, I've heard you mention several different things between coaching, your speaking, your books, or how do all these pieces kind of fit in with each other?
So when people come to me, they sometimes come in different stages of their business. So whether you're just starting out in business, whether you are, a couple of years into business, whether you are a seasoned business professional, all of these things fit together. And quite frankly, I also will sometimes work with people who they know they want to get out of that corporate job and break the chains and get out of those golden handcuffs that are tying them back, and they want to jump into entrepreneurship, but they don't know where to start. Well, that's something that can be a great conversation, because everybody has a unique set of gifts and talents that they can bring to the world. And how all of my programming fits together, I have, of course, my signature book writing program called Write and Grow Rich. It's a 5-step system to get your book written in 90 days or less. So you could quite literally go into the last quarter of 2020, a published author, and watch things take off and change for you in 2021. And I think a lot of people are looking for that edge for 2021, and just putting 2020 behind us. It's been an interesting year, to say the least, but it's not over yet. We've just gone into the second half. July 1st was the clock ticker for the second half of 2020. My business coach calls it the best of times and the worst of times. Hopefully we've got the worst of times behind us, and we're kind of moving into putting this all behind us. And what better way to do it than to make some changes in your business that could help you pivot and have a more successful year. How the book then ties into, of course, the marketing is I have a methodology as well where I show people how to start the promotion online, do everything from online book funnels to outreach to publicity and media to be able to get featured on these publications instead of having to pay for advertising, which is pretty awesome to do. And if somebody really thinks that they want to jump into entrepreneurship and develop some sort of a course or a program or a coaching service, I can help people through that process too. So wherever you're at in your business, there's something that can be done to shift you and move you forward.
Yeah, and you really mentioned it, but didn't go into depth on it. I'm just curious because I know you help so many people, with their business, but you mentioned that you actually have a business coach. Did I hear that right?
You did. I have actually
Okay.
multiple coaches. I believe that if you want to do anything and you want to do it well and you want to do it fast, the best way to do it is to go and follow a system from somebody else who's done it before you. So I prefer to get my results in an accelerated fashion. So I choose to use coaches all the time. So I've not only when I wrote my first book did I have a book coach, but I have a PR and a media coach. So how I've used coaching to show me how to do all of these systems. So now I'm able to take all that expertise I've brought back to the table from my coaches and help my clients get their results faster. So I'm constantly in a state of perpetual learning. I think it's absolutely critical if you want to do better that you're finding somebody who's just a few steps, doesn't even have to be a lot of steps, a few steps ahead of you, and attach yourself to their coattails and go after it. So I'm always using the expertise of others to get accelerated results all the time.
And have you, as you've kind of grown your business, in the last several years, have you seen, opportunities where you've been able to like increase your rates, expand your product offering? And I'm just kind of curious if you have, what were kind of the thought process and the decision making that you were going through when you were facing those moments?
That is a great question. And if I told most people, they would probably feel extremely nervous. So I was taught by my coach to not create the program first, but to go out and sell it first, to figure out whether you actually have people that would buy your program. So when I actually sold the very first version of my book coaching program, I had not written a single word or created a single module for it at all. I had quite literally kind of created an outline. I knew the system because I'd gone through the system myself. So I knew kind of the steps that needed to go along. I created a little bit of an outline for what that looked like. And on the very first meeting that I went to with somebody, that's all I had. I had an outline and I pitched the outline and he handed me his credit card at the end of that meeting and said, "I'd love to get started." And I quite literally went home and in the next 2 days started writing out some lessons. And I was only a couple of lessons ahead of him the entire way through his book writing process. So, so you can imagine that at that point in time, I didn't even expect him to say yes to the program. I was expecting a 2 or 3 meeting sales process at that point in time too. So yes, I have significantly increased my rates since that very first person that I coached over 2 years ago now, and I show my clients how to do the same thing, right? Because people are nervous sometimes about if they've never done it before. But if you've done it yourself before, you have done it. You just might not have trained somebody else through the process, but that does not mean that you're not going to be an excellent teacher. And it's systematic at the point where you decide that you want to do and help somebody. It's really quite interesting how it just starts to move forward.
Yeah, and I know we're kind of running up on our time, but I'd really be curious if you're looking at where you're at today and going back to not when you were back in financial services, but when you first started, making this shift and doing what you're doing today. What advice would you give yourself if you went back to that point in time?
Ooh, that is a good one. Um, Maybe the advice that I would give myself going back in time. That is a Tim, I think you might have stumped me. What advice? I mean, I kind of take most of my own advice. So really the biggest advice that I have is just getting started. You can't be worried about overthink. I know so many people that get trapped in that hole and paralysis by analysis. It's all about taking that first imperfect step and realizing that the T's are going to get crossed and the I's are going to get dotted along the way, and just trusting in yourself and believing in yourself enough to know that it will all work out if you just keep taking action one step at a time, over and over and over again, and just keep repeating it. And it's nearly impossible to fail if you just keep doing that.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, before we go, can you let everybody know how they can connect with you and where they can find you online?
Absolutely. So you can reach me. Well, probably I would give you my email, but email is probably the worst way to get in touch with me. I am a creative. I am not an administrative, and my inbox gets just inundated. So if somebody's looking to connect with me, the best way would be either on Facebook or LinkedIn. But you can find me also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. My handle for all of them is the real Kim Day. So you can find me either by searching my full name, Kimberly Day. There is an E in there. People spell it Ly, but it's Ley. That will get to me. Or at the real Kim Day will find me as well on all of my social media. So connect with me there. Happy to do so.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. And
Thank you.
for you watching, we really want to thank you for joining us today. And if you have not watched this show, one thing that I do is I ask my guests to stay on, even though we're going to end the YouTube broadcast. And we're going to record one additional question. And the only people that get this content are the people that sign up for our email newsletter. When you go to speaking.business and just join for free, sign up, and this is where you'll get the exclusive content of the question that I ask after we get off of YouTube. So thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Kim.